Okay. Welcome to our Homeschooling 101 night. I know a lot of people are traveling and at ball games, so that's why we're recording it, because there is a lot of interest in homeschooling. Just because you're here doesn't mean you're like signing on the dotted line. I know some of you are still on the fence and don't know what your schools are doing next year, but we wanted to kind of give you some insight about what we are doing. There are 3 of us here tonight that are on the panel. We are part of a group called Focus, and it stands for Families of Christ United Through Schooling. And I think we are in our 22 years?
I think it's 23rd.
23rd year.
Yes.
So this group has been around forever, basically, not really, but a long time. And we are a group that we do a lot of things. We have field trips. We have sometimes we do a co-op. We have team nights. We have a homeschool formal. We sometimes have organized sports. Every year is different. It looks different depending on the kids. We have mom nights every month. And we have like it's a very supportive group. We have more people come in. Here's a couple more people. So give me a second.
Okay.
I'll stop my intro while they're getting in. All right. Hey, Amanda, can you hear me okay? All right, perfect. We were just starting. And let me make sure Philip. All right, is it Philip or is somebody else behind Philip's screen?
Mrs. Phillip.
Mrs. Philip. Let me know if you want me to change your name. I know Lisa came in as Brandon. All right. So again, we're part of a focus group, and we try to do this it seems like every other year. But we thought this year, like this type of thing every year, obviously we're usually in person, but it didn't work out this year. Just some background about me. I have a 4-year-old, a 9-year-old, 11-year-old, almost 13-year-old, and almost 15-year-old, and we have been homeschooling since the beginning of time for them. So I have been homeschooling for, gosh, over 10 years now, it seems like. So that is a little bit of my background. Tammy, you want to introduce yourself and who you are?
Okay, I'm Tammy Valencia. I live outside of Alda. I have a 21-year-old. She's married. A 19-year-old. I forgot him. He's going to school in Texas at Texas A&M in the fall. I have a 17-year-old girl, a 14-year-old girl, a 7-year-old boy, and a 3-year-old girl. And yeah, I've been homeschooling forever. I potty trained them, so a long time.
And you'll be homeschooling forever, like 40-some years, right?
I'm in it. I'm in it. There's no turning back now. So yeah, that's me.
All right. And then Lisa is the other person that is on our board. Lisa, you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Lisa Honeycutt, live in Giltner. My husband farms. We have 7 kids. My oldest is 20, a girl, and then I have another girl who's 18, a girl who is 16, a boy 14, another boy 11, another girl 9, and then a girl who's 6. So 20 down to 6.
And how long have you been?
And again, we started homeschooling from the get-go as well. So we've been homeschooling since my first was preschool.
Actually, you potty trained him.
Yeah, potty trained. Yep.
I like to count that.
That is homeschooling. That is everybody technically homeschools in some way or shape or form. You just might not think it's homeschooling, but it is. And we are on the board of our focus group. We have a board, and then we have over 100 members. I'm not sure the last count, at least a couple hundred kids in our group. I'm the activities coordinator. I do all the activities and organize those. Tammy is in charge of hospitality when we have our mom's nights and kind of coordinating those. And Lisa is our finance person. And is that it, Lisa? Finance for you?
No.
Yeah, I kind of
everything.
Okay. And then we also have a president. I won't announce who that is because it hasn't been announced yet. like a person that oversees that.
Facilitator.
A facilitator. She has not been announced yet officially, so we'll do that one of these days. And then we also have a communications coordinator who does emails and Facebook and all that. So that is our background. We had quite a few questions that were sent to us. So I have a list that we're going to kind of go through, but please feel free to ask other questions if we do not go over your questions. We will be here as long as you want, and I'm recording this, so if you don't want to take notes, you can watch this later, and you can email me and I can give you the link. So the first question that was sent was, how do you know homeschooling is for your family, and what were the deciding factors? I guess I'll just start, and then Lisa and Tammy, you can chime in. Do not let this steer you away, because I get this a lot when, oh my gosh, you were like a certified public school teacher. That means nothing. Honestly, I didn't learn anything in college. I'll just tell you that, to be a teacher. But anyways, I used to be a high school marketing teacher, and I kind of saw, I was in a really good school district, a really good high school. I kind of saw some things that I just didn't like. I didn't have kids at the time of my own. When I became pregnant with our first child, we decided I was just going to stay home for a year, kind of test the waters of being a stay-at-home mom. And we moved in that time, and we lived in a small town. And at that time, I had 4 kids under 4, and I was busy, and I honestly didn't want to drive 20 minutes to take my daughter to school. And so we decided, she's a summer birthday, we'll stay at home kind of during that. She could go either way. And so we started homeschooling and loved it and didn't turn our backs. And I kind of realized that if everybody has a different mission. For my family, it is we want to keep Christ at the center of our homeschool. It's kind of dying in the public school. It's not there in the public schools. And that is just kind of our goal, is keeping Christ at the center. And all my kids learn at a different pace. And so I think it's nice that I can slow down or I can move them ahead. And I use those words with caution, because who's the deciding factor of who's slow and who's ahead? Everybody is different if you compare them against each other. So that is me. And that's kind of how we got started, just kind of because we had a summer birthday, and then we didn't turn back. So, and I was lazy. I didn't want to get up super early and send her on a bus at 7 or drive her 20 miles away. So
Can I tag team on what you just said?
Yep, go ahead, Tammy.
About who's ahead, who's behind. I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of moms have called me and real sad about my 7th grade boy. They say his reading level is like 4th grade or 3rd grade. And I always tell them, unfortunately, if, you're in public school, if you were a homeschooler, this would be a non-issue. It is a non-issue when these boys read, or girls, or whoever it is, or whatever, that's, they have to, not bashing the public schools, but they really have to keep everybody at a level, and they have to teach to the test. And that's one of the beautiful blessings of homeschooling. You can teach your kids how to learn, and how to love learning, and how to be curious and remain curious, how to know how to speak well, how to know how to argue, not argue just to be a twerp, but argue like debate, and realize when, not be taken advantage by people, eventually when they're adults. So I think a huge benefit for homeschooling is your kid can learn at their own pace, and your kid that maybe has too many wiggles, wiggles too much, wanders around the house. I have had at least 2 of these children that do not ever seem like they ever are paying any attention to anything. But in fact, they are learning. So some kids just have to move. So that's a beautiful thing about homeschooling, is you can teach to that kid instead of teaching to a test. And like my kids have never known you know, that math is a horrible, scary thing if you're a girl, or science, you know. They never had that baggage of, oh gosh, math is so scary. Oh, it's so awful. They've never had this peer group that's told them that, so they can think for themselves. It's an awesome thing. One little old lady asked me a few months ago, you know, what is it about homeschooling? And I said, honestly, you can shut out the noise. You know, you can shut out the noise of all these other kids and their baggage and, you know, everything. So, but honestly, my reason and my husband's reasons for homeschooling is the Lord. We want our kids to follow the Lord. That's what we're driving at. So that's, you know, I tried to run away and not do this because I'm not a very likely candidate to be a homeschool mom, but it's good. It's been awesome. It's been hard. There's been tears and frustration and everything, but it's very good. It's a good lifestyle.
Okay, Lisa?
I think our reasons, I mean, very similar. We want to give our kids a good foundation. I love having them home. I just hated to see sending them to school. So we started by just trying it and loved it. I love the fact that I can teach them that they are grounded in their faith. And yeah, I like the benefits. You both hit on most of the other things, you know, the benefits of, you know, going ahead or behind, like, you know, just teaching to their level. So yeah.
All right. The next question was, we might have kind of already talked about this, but what were your expectations going into homeschooling, and how have these changed throughout the years? My expectations were my kids were going to be the smartest ones in the bunch, but obviously as we start, you don't know where your kids are at until you start working with them. We have changed the way we homeschool, I don't know, every year. It seems like we've changed something. We've changed curriculum. I've changed strategy to teach kids. I have one of those kids like Tammy has that he needs to be up and moving. I have one that works best at a kitchen table, one that works best in her bed, and they're productive. They need to shut out people. So we have changed every year, it seems like, and it's okay. And you have to just kind of adapt to the child. So that's probably not a very good answer, but Tammy, what were your expectations?
I think I expected it to be sunshine and lollipops.
It is, isn't it? No.
It's a bit of, you know, like marriage, having kids, you know, it's a bit of a refining process. And I have learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm happy to always share those. But I really learned to give my kids grace and apologize when I mess up, especially if I lose it. You know, it's shocking how you know, you learn a lot about yourself, how impatient you can get. Like, for example, teaching a child to read, you're just like, oh, say it. You know,
with the letter A.
Yeah. So, and like, I have a kid that almost seems like they've landed from a new planet every day, and I'm like, whoo. So I've really, I think the Lord has refined me a bit in patience and asking for forgiveness when I lose it, and yeah, admitting that, okay, I'm sorry. Let's do that again with a little bit calmer mommy here. So I don't know if that really answered your questions, but I expected it to be maybe easier. But it's good, but definitely different than I expected.
You know, I was going to add to, you know, sunshine and roses. Every summer, I think I'm going to have checklists And we are going to just, this year, we're going to start checking things off like every year. And it doesn't last because it's like something comes up and then we change curriculum. And I always think it's going to be sunshine and roses, but my checklist, my kids are like, what happened to those checklists like every year? They never work.
Yeah.
They don't work for our family. So
Yeah.
the kids probably just laugh every time I try it. But
Yeah.
Lisa, what about you?
What was the question?
Expectations.
What were your expectations going into homeschooling and how have those changed throughout the year?
I think when I first started, I probably assumed it would look a lot more like public school, when you start homeschooling. And I learned quickly that it doesn't have to look like that, and it probably shouldn't look like that. So you kind of, like you said, you do what works for your kids. I kind of group the younger ones together and do science and history together, but then their questions and what they do beyond is based on their age level. So some of those things do look different, and I think going into it, I didn't realize that. So that's probably one thing that, was an expectation that changed for me.
All right. Okay, the next question is, this is a very loaded question and one of the most common questions we get. How do you decide what curriculum to use, and do you have to align them to certain standards? So you could ask, and I tell everybody that I mentor with homeschooling, you could ask 100 different families what they do for homeschooling, what curriculum you use, and you'll probably get about 95 different answers. Because you kind of have to find something that fits for your child. I have tried, and their learning style. There's a lot of visual things out there. There's a lot of auditory learners out there. My daughter, who's 14, I could have swore she was a visual learner because she's an artist. She's not. She learns auditory. So we do a lot of listening to things, and you think she's not listening because she's drawing. Oh yeah, she remembers everything. So we have switched. Sometimes my kids are like, I don't want to be on the computer anymore. So we've switched our math programs. So it's kind of trial and error. I was just talking to, I think Jill messaged me last week, where do you buy your curriculum? Sometimes I do a lot of new, I go straight to the publisher just because I like history, I want up to date, that kind of thing. But like my math doesn't really change. So I go on eBay. Amazon has a lot of booksellers where they sell used curriculum. If you Google used homeschool curriculum, there's a lot of forums out there. Facebook has some different marketplaces, not the general marketplace, but there's some homeschool swap groups where you just have to say, I'm interested, and then you deal with it through PayPal. My dog is barking, hold on. A common resource, if you want to go new, you can do Amazon, straight through the publisher. Christian Book Source has a ton of homeschooling. But deciding, it's kind of trial and error. Yes, talk to people. See if you can come over, and anybody's more than welcome to come over to my house. And if you want to actually see books and decide, oh yeah, this will work for me, or no, this isn't how we do it. But find somebody that you can go over to and just kind of get a visual of what they're doing. And it may work for you, it may not, because everybody has a different learning style. Personally, I'm just going to throw out some names of what we use so you can get some like publishers in your head. We like Knotgrass for history, and I know Tammy's used it, but has switched. So it didn't work for her family. It works for us. My kids love it. We have used teaching textbooks, but I'm getting away from that. That's an online CD program for math. We're going to do Saxon next year. We've tried different maths, but Saxon has worked best for us. Spanish, we do Duolingo, and next year we're doing OutSchool for a few of my kids. Writing, I do a hodgepodge of stuff. I use schoolhouseteachers.com depending on the year. We do Easy Grammar. We do OutSchool. What other subjects do we have? Science, I use Apologia, which we love. So those are just a few of the curriculum things that we use. It's okay if you don't know how to teach a subject. There are places where you can outsource. So I am not good with writing and all of that literature. So I outsource to OutSchool and schoolhouse teachers. So that's what I do. Standards, the second question, how do you know if they align with certain standards? We don't really have standards. It's catered to the learner. Now, if you're doing the high school and they're college bound, there are certain things that you probably need to cover. Check to see what school they're looking into, and you can see, okay, they need 3 years of this and 4 years of that. So that's kind of how you know how to form your college diploma or your high school diploma. But in homeschooling, not all fourth graders need to know X, Y, Z. So like in the public schools, maybe it's Nebraska history. By your fourth grade, everybody should know about Nebraska history. We might cover it with my second grader, my sixth grader, and my eighth grader. So we kind of do things all together, and there's really no set year that you have to cover certain material. So that's kind of a hard question because we don't have any standards. It's really, my kids might cover human physiology, which we're doing next year, and another homeschool family may never cover it in their whole entire homeschool curriculum. So we did astronomy. Maybe somebody else will never cover it. You have to pick and choose what works best for your family. So Tammy and Lisa, that was kind of a long answer. Go ahead and add to that.
I think the thing is, it really doesn't matter. I mean, like in my family, we go through the Bible, we talk about that, and we make sure everybody's reading. I have everybody do copy work every day, and that's Bible too. And then we do math, and everything else is dessert. And I think the big thing is they must, one of my friends says, if you know how to read and you love your children, you can homeschool. And I would thoroughly agree with that. And honestly, if you get excited about what you're learning with the kid, what they're learning, they're going to be excited and they're going to learn it better if you're excited about it. Like think about your best teacher you've ever had. You probably learned a lot because they were excited about it. So curriculum, that's a hard question because you get asked that a lot by new people because they just want you to tell them what to do. And one of my way back veteran moms told me a long time ago, you're gonna waste money. Just get used to it. Tell your husband you're sorry and move on. But don't, if something isn't working and it's horrible, just say, honey, I am really sorry. I wasted this money, but it's not working. If you're having a super lean year, there are tons of ways to do homeschooling, free or super cheap. You can go to the library and you can, study pick any subject and get some books. So reading is hugely important to do to these kids. And anything you try to teach them, they have to feel like there is a point. Like I told my kids, this fall we are learning American history because of all the ridiculousness that's going on in our nation. You're going to learn it, and you're also going to learn. We're going to talk about how to, what do you call it? I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Like logic. We're going to learn, how to spot fallacies, how to spot when somebody's trying to take you for a ride, whether it's the mainstream media or whatever. You're going to learn how to speak effectively, understand when somebody's trying to pull the wool over your eyes. So those are the things, sometimes homeschooling changes based on what's going on in the world. Sometimes my homeschooling has changed a lot because we have had a lot of parent illness and death in our family. So we've had to sometimes drop everything and take care of a grandparent, or, parent of my husband and I's. So homeschooling, you can make it look however you want. If you're a family, say your husband travels a lot for his work, you can all take your books and go with daddy. So don't have to be separated. You can take your stuff anywhere you go. Some families like traveling a lot. and they want to, experience, real historical events by going places. That's homeschooling. So curriculum is about as wide and vast as you can imagine. It's anything. But yeah, I have used a lot of everything. My children are guinea pigs, and I love books, so I'm a picker and a chooser. I've liked Saxon math because my kids are college bound. My son wanted to go into engineer, so Saxon is a little bit more involved for like an engineering type mind. But like a kid that's not going to college and maybe will be an entrepreneur, or just a mom, just a wife, a mom, maybe they need some consumer math, maybe they need to know how to budget, how to pay bills and do check. You can do any kind of math. You don't have to just really, I always tell people, if they ask me about homeschooling, I always tell them, visualize the end. Visualize what you want this kid to come out of your homeschool and take with them. Visualize with your husband, what do you want for this kid? What is your point? What is your purpose? And then keep going back to that. I don't know. I'm kind of I hope that covered some things. And I love Apologia, and we don't really do grammar and stuff and reading because we read good literature. And so far I've graduated too, and it's worked. So anyway.
All right. Lisa, anything to add?
Curriculum, I've changed throughout the years. When I started, I wasn't sure. It is so overwhelming. So as you go to start, just know as you look, it is totally overwhelming. I picked something because I didn't know what to start with, and it worked for a few years. And then I really just found some moms who I trusted and who I liked what their kids were doing, and I just started asking them what they were doing, and I took what they said, and then I looked at those different curriculums because, like Julie said, everyone does different things. So I took what they said, kind of looked at it, researched it, and then again picked and chose what I wanted for my kids, and that's what we do right now. We are primarily doing Apologia Science, not grass history for the older ones. For the younger ones, I do Mystery of History. We start that when they're little. And then, let's see, what else? Easy Grammar, IEW, which is Andrew Poudois, as they get older in high school for writing. Math, we have used both Saxton and teaching textbooks, so a little of both of those. And a lot of times we do try to do Bible besides just devotions and things, and I love Summit Ministries for that. So Summit has some great Bible curriculum. So those are kind of my go-tos for curriculum.
All right.
Was that question also based on unit studies? Did that have the unit studies in it? Or was that a different question to come?
We can talk about unit studies. I didn't add that from earlier, but
no,
yeah.
we can do that later. I just didn't remember.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, how do you register to homeschool in Nebraska? Is the form hard to fill out, and is there anyone that can help me fill it out? So I've been kind of researching it today. It's kind of changed throughout the years. And so yesterday we had our own meeting and we're like, let's try to figure this out, all these changes out, because there is a clause in there now that if your school is closing and they're still providing you with materials, you're not really homeschooling. But if you're truly doing the full-time homeschooling where you're not relying on the public schools, kind of like that e-learning that they did in the spring, We call it, they just call it Rule 13. They used to have 2 different rules, but we have realized they've clumped it into what is called Rule 13. I'm going to just screen share a couple links, so hopefully this works. Okay, so you get all your information. Can everybody see this screen share?
Wow, you are savvy.
I teach online. I'm like totally used to my little MacBook. So anyways, so the Nebraska Department of Education, some people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we have to do something. They're actually really low key compared to a lot of states.
Yeah.
Iowa, not so much. California, whoa, that's crazy people over there. No offense if you're from California. Every state is different. I know Colorado, they have to do testing. We are super easy, so hopefully you don't complain about the paperwork that you have to fill out. So they call it Rule 13, and I would highly recommend just go to the Nebraska Department of Education. We are called an exempt school, which is homeschool. Hold on, I've got someone ringing my doorbell. Okay. And so go there, and and just seriously read the facts. And I'll pull this up. We're not going to read it because it's super long, but you can read about the laws. What is Rule 13? Who needs to file? So there's ages. As long they have to be, you have to file by, if they're 6, by the end of the year. So like my little guy is turning 5 this year, so I don't have to file for him quite yet. So the deadline, and I know a lot of you haven't made the decision and you're still waiting for your school district to decide what the protocol is going to be. The deadline, they say they would like them by July 15th. Now they are inundated, like they are overwhelmed. So if you're a little late, they're not going to be like, oh my gosh, you were like 5 days late, but try your best by July 15th. If you change your mind in August, just send them a quick email and say, hey, I know you've approved me, but we're not going to do it anymore. They will notify your school district. So you might have to contact the school just saying, hey, we're on the fence, still send me all the information. So that's kind of how that, but there is a ton of information and we could spend hours and hours reading it together, but we won't because I'm assuming you all can read. But that is all the stuff about homeschooling. Now,
can I
did
interject something?
Yeah.
Can I interject something?
Yep.
Well, and you really could pull your kids at any point.
Yes. Yeah.
You
can decide
don't have
September 1st you want to pull them, or December.
Right. Yeah.
So the process is, they did say because the staff is working from home, they have not sent out paper copies. Now, there is a link that you can print off a paper copy, I noticed. So there's a paper submission right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse circling.
Yep.
So there's the paper submission, or where's the online? There's somewhere there's a link. Oh, right here, there's the online submission. And the first time you do it, I will be honest, there's just a lot of just boxes to fill, like your name, address, husband's name, kids' names, birthdays. You do have to name your homeschool. We just named ours Twin Lakes Christian Academy because we used to live by Twin Lakes where we used to live. You can use your family's last name. You have to name your homeschool. You have to do like your level of education, which they don't care. They like to know it. And then the bulk of it is what curriculum are you going to cover? You don't have to write paragraphs. Basically, like I say, math, I'm doing section, algebra. Science, I'm doing apologia, human physiology. So I just tell them what I'm doing. Health, we don't really do it. Well, we're doing human phys next year, but like health, I just kind of talk about what we're going to be doing. Hygiene, everything.
Can I interject also?
Yes.
And if you plan something and you put it on there and you change, it's okay. This is just really a formality. It's not. It's just a hoop to jump through. It's not any big deal at all. Sometimes I put the same book for health every single year.
Yeah, so they're not going to go knocking on Tammy's door saying, you said you were going to use this health book. May we see it? Like, I don't even know if they look at it, but really.
I don't even know if they look at it either.
So anyways, you just kind of fill in the boxes there. They say you have to cover so many hours. I honestly don't even know what the hours say. It's some ridiculous amount. You do not have to record your hours of from 8 to 9. I did math, and then we took a break, and then for 15 minutes we did this. Do not record your hours. You will not have to show your hours to anybody. If you want to take a week off, take a week off. Nobody is going to be saying, where's your log sheet? Because they're not expecting a log sheet. They just kind of want to scare you. The other thing that you have, yeah, the other thing.
I think it's a scare tactic, honestly.
It is. And I do know people that try to record it. I'm like, I'm teaching my kids hygiene at 9 o'clock at night. I'm not going to write that down. Trying to force them to shower and stuff. The other thing that I have run into roadblocks with people that I mentor is divorce situations or situations where they have kids from multiple fathers, and their father of their child is not on board. You do have to have consent from the legal guardian. So when I apply for homeschooling every year, my husband will get an email. It will shoot him off an email because I've given them his email, and he has to agree that we are okay with homeschooling. You can also fill in who's going to be teaching. So if I am sending my kids over to Tammy's house to do science all year, she will be one of my instructional monitors. I put myself down because we do outsource, but I just put myself for everything. So it seems scary, but it really is not scary. It will tell you when you fill out online, you'll push a little button and it will say, ooh, check mark, you need to go, or a little X, you need to go back and look at this section. I always have check marks because I forget to do something.
Me too.
Then the next year you apply, all of your things will be there with the exception of, I don't have to fill anything out with the exception of what I'm teaching. So, and just click in some boxes, I send it to my husband, I wait for him to click something on his end, and then like today, I got my confirmation letter, and I can kind of show you, I got my confirmation letter, it took maybe 2 weeks, and it just says you've been acknowledged, and they send you a letter via email. So it's not scary.
Question.
Yes.
So I'm an old homeschooler. I used to always send it in by paper. So birth certificates now, can you submit those online?
It did say that you have to,
Yes.
you can submit them online. They have to have the raised seal. If you send them, and I didn't see anything anymore about sending them in, but if you do, they will mail them back. But I think because of the COVID, they're trying to do everything online for that. But you do have to send them, if you're new, you do have to send them a birth certificate to make sure they are a live human that you're homeschooling, I guess.
So yeah, sometimes you discover that you don't have a birth certificate for a child.
Yeah. So yeah, you can get another one if you need to. But please do not be scary. If you have questions, you can email me or Tammy and Lisa. I can give you their contact information. We're not going to do it because this will be dropped onto YouTube. I don't know who will see it, so we won't do it through this venue. But it is intimidating at first, but it's really not anything to stress about. If you're doing it for the first time, it will probably take you about an hour, maybe. This time, since I've done it, it took me 15 minutes, maybe. So it gets easier as it goes. Anything to add, Tammy and Lisa? It's really not that scary.
No.
So
just a hoop. Don't be scared. It's okay.
Yep. I think you did a good job explaining it. And yeah, the only thing that they would have to do after they have done it their first year would be if they have another child come in that, just add that birth certificate. Otherwise, it's pretty much just advance them to their grades and re-sign.
Yep.
Oh, I have one more thing. Don't wait. You don't have to wait to homeschool till they tell you to homeschool. Last year, I didn't get my okay until March. And I was like, oh, okay.
When did you apply?
July, beginning of July. Yeah.
Well, that's weird.
I was like, yeah, they might have missed me. So don't wait.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I got mine. I
Yeah.
usually get mine within like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
It
it
will
was
get a
very
little
weird.
slower as you get closer to the deadline. And like I always just keep it on my phone. Like some places offer homeschool discounts. We went to a place in
Yep.
Branson and they offered a homeschool discount. We saved like half off at this amusement
Yeah.
center. So
Wow.
so save it on your phone and you just, hey, I'm a homeschooler. The food cupboard over by Bonner Park offers a homeschool discount. Okay, next question. What is HL? We'll have questions at the end. We're kind of just breezing through our little questions that people sent in. What is HLSDA and NCHIA? And should I join those groups? Tammy, I'm going to screen share again. Do you want to kind of talk about what those are?
HSLDA is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. They are the national homeschooling group. They are the ones that lobby for our rights. They're the ones that help keep homeschooling protected. Also, they are the ones that will help you if you do have trouble with a school district. They're the ones that will come in and help you, and you get legal counsel. You get, what am I trying to say?
Support.
They'll, like if you would have to go to court, they're your lawyers.
Mhm.
So,
And there would be no charge if you are a member, but you have to be a member.
Right. And I've even heard people that have joined, like, and if something has come up, but it's good to have them on board ahead of time.
Yep. So this is the
they
website.
also,
It's a great website while Tammy was talking.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they also have tons of resources. One of my favorite high school things, it's real simple. It just came from them about high school plans, you know, a general high school plan, a college prep plan, a rigorous college prep plan. They just have tons of resources and tons of help. So they're a really good resource. The financial commitment, it used to be like $100 a year, which when you think of that monthly, that's really penny, you know, just not much at all. And they really do provide all kinds of resources and help. And if you need legal help, they're there. And NCHA is our state group. Again, they are the ones that go before our government and speak for us. Very minimal cost that they have to join them. And they give you legislative alerts, things that you may want to know about, may want to, you know, sign something to, you know, different things that come up in Nebraska for families, homeschooling families. So that's, again, they're really inexpensive. They have also a state curriculum fair and conference every year. I highly recommend that stuff because being a homeschooler is difficult and sometimes lonely, and it's such a shot in the arm. It's such a good encouragement, and I honestly like to stare at the people and think, yay, all these people are doing what I'm doing. And it's such a huge representation of so many kids that can really be game changers in the world. I love going, and it's a great thing. And you'll also see tons and tons and tons of curriculum there, as well as
from around
encouragement.
the country, like
Yeah.
speakers.
Yeah, speakers from all over. And that is generally in the spring. The date, they didn't have it this year, I guess, because
No, they had it this year.
they did. Wasn't it right at
like,
Corona time?
I think it was the week before. I'm pretty sure they had it.
Super
I saw
early.
pictures.
Maybe it
But
was super early.
Next year, it's March 12th and 13th.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so very valuable. Those are valuable things to belong to.
And it's in Lincoln usually, Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah. It's nice to even go with a bunch of moms, or it's great to go with your man if you're, you can have a date and go together. Or they have programs for kids too, little kids, teenagers. That's all good. They can go as a family. It's a really good time.
It's usually a fun weekend.
Mhm.
Okay, what extracurricular activities are there for homeschoolers? It seems like every year it changes. This year was a little odd. And it kind of depends on the group we have kind of gone through an influx of, we don't have a ton of teenagers, I feel like, that have a lot of the common interests. So years past, sometimes we have basketball teams that travel. Sometimes we have volleyball teams that travel, football teams. I teach archery locally. So there are sport activities available. I know a lot of kids are doing robotics, and there's some homeschool robotics teams. Lisa had, one of your sons was in robotics. But you could probably be out of your house every day if you wanted to. So you kind of have to decide what works best for your family. My family, we are heavily involved in archery since I teach it. We do PE at the field house every other week, and that runs like October through April. It's to like 5 to 11-year-olds. So every family is different. A lot of times it's just, hey, let's meet at the park and we will play forever, it seems like. So you have to choose to do those things. There are some families that don't do anything, and there's a lot of families that are gone every single day doing something different. So it isn't, so this whole COVID thing, a lot of people are like, I'm now homeschooling. I'm like, no, you're not, because we are stuck at home, and that's not how we usually are. We as a family try to stay home a couple days a week just so we can stay grounded. But there's usually like 2 to 3 days that we are off doing something, at least in the afternoons, or doing a field trip with our group, or sometimes just a group of friends and I will say, hey, let's book something at the firehouse and do something there. We've been to Eileen's, and we sometimes just a couple friends and I just plan something and do it. So what else did I miss, Tammy and Lisa?
Yeah, you just said field trips. A lot of times if there's something that you want to do, sometimes you just have to plan it. Like when we lived in Texas, field trip Friday, or not field trip Fridays, park day on Fridays was hugely important to me because I got to just play. So a lot of times if you want something to happen, you just kind of have to start it yourself or link arms with somebody and get something going. Let's see. Yeah,
we've had co-ops in the past. So co-op is something that we've done in the past, that we've done in this fall and the spring. That's based on interest and the availability of moms. We normally try to do about one event a month is kind of our goal, is to at least have something so we're not overwhelming, but yet, getting together. And that's the fun part, is the kids getting to know each other and bonding, as well as going off of that, the moms getting together and bonding at our moms nights. So again, that's usually a once a month get together that we meet, either at the church or in a mom's home, and just have our time together as well. So yeah, we try to do the once a month together.
Okay. And go ahead.
Hey, I wondered, should we pause and let them ask a few questions, or do
I
we
have just one more question on my list.
Okay.
And then, so we talked about field trips. What support out there for moms who homeschool, and Lisa just mentioned. You don't have to be part of our group. You might not agree with our mission statement. Some people don't. We hope you do. But anyways, we meet every second Monday of the month in the evenings. Lisa mentioned a church. The home base is Stockham, which is, if you're in Grand Island, it's about 45 minutes away for me to get there, a little farther for Tammy. That's our home church, but we have people that drive like an hour and a half to get there. So our circle that we cover is vast. Our other board member, she lives an hour and a half away from Grand Island. So she drives all the way from Davenport. We have people on the Kansas-Nebraska border. There are some mamas who drive a long way to come.
Stromsburg, York area. So yeah, we draw from a wide range.
But it's fun to carpool and get there.
And you will find that most moms, if you can make it, want to be around other moms just to be like, you know what I'm going through. We're on the same page. It's been a rough day, but it was worth it. If our group isn't, and I know we just kind of did this as our group, just a little plug, if our group isn't for you, hopefully you can find a group of moms that you can at least get together with, have coffee with, go out to lunch with, to just have somebody on the common page. I will be completely honest with you, and this is just kind of in our season of life. I have good friends. This is going to sound horrible, but I have good friends, and then when they stop homeschooling altogether, we are crossing paths hardly ever because they're off doing other activities, and I just don't see a lot of my friends that don't homeschool anymore. Not to say that that's a horrible thing, but it is, don't do a lot of the common activities anymore. I think I got all the questions. I may have missed some.
I would very strongly encourage you to have some kind of mom contact or contact with veteran moms, because it is so lonely sometimes. And I just think contact with an actual human. I know people that do blogs and all the websites and everything, they're actual humans, but to hug somebody and to have somebody pray over you or cry with or whatever is awesome. So I would highly recommend you to just get some sisters that know what you are going through. Whether you join our group or not, it's so important to have those relationships and have actual people that you can hang on.
Yep. All right. What questions do you have? And if you don't want to, you can chat them as well if you don't want to use your sound, and I can read the chat. Does anybody have any other questions? We kind of rambled a little bit. Hopefully this was useful with what we said. What other questions do you have? Inquiring minds.
You can ask anything. Now's your time. Ask a homeschooler.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to add on that when I went to Julie's house, if you do, like, it was so helpful to like sit and actually like hold curriculum and be able to, like, flip through. So like when you offered that, I thought, take it up, people. Like,
yes,
really, it was like super helpful. So thank you.
Yes, and I'm a visual learner. I've looked through Tammy's stuff before. Lisa, I know, has brought some things. So like I'm a visual. I know in our group, we usually have a curriculum fair, and we have a lot of curriculum nights where we have speakers and stuff. And I need to see stuff. That's just kind of how I function. I rarely buy anything without seeing some form of it. It might not be the same grade that I'm teaching, but just some form of, is this something that will help my student?
Yeah, it is an excellent thing to get your hands on something and not necessarily have to buy it. And yeah, I'm always willing to have anybody over anytime. I love encouraging homeschool mamas.
And you think I had a lot of books, Jill? You should go to Tammy's house. She has bookshelves and bookshelves and bookshelves of books.
I might be able to insulate quite a few rooms in my house.
And Lisa has a lot too, but
Just a question. Do you guys have any experience with like the Abeka curriculum where it's very laid out already?
I don't.
Is the Abeka the life pack? Is that the
No,
life pack
it's Alpha
books?
Omega.
Are you
No, it's
talking about where they do it all online and they submit everything to
No.
the company, Alicia?
no, so you can actually do it one or two ways. You can do it where you just purchase the materials and they have a student material and a parent material, or you can also purchase where you can do like DVDs where they do have a teacher that has already, it's not live recording, but
Lots of people, especially when I started and probably when Lisa started, lots of people did Abeka. I think it was a popular Christian private school. So we could find you somebody that's
I
used-
know somebody.
I think Michelle Klein is actually doing it right now.
Okay, yeah.
Last I
And-
knew.
She
So
is.
unless she changed, so we could
Yeah.
set you up with someone to talk to about that.
So
Absolutely.
Michelle does it a little differently though, Alicia. Michelle actually pays. She pays and they send everything to the company and they keep track of like their grades. So she has deadlines. At least she did that last year. I don't know if that's what she's doing this school year. I know she's doing Abeka, but it kind of changes.
Does
I have my opinions, but
Roxanna
Michelle would be, I can connect you with Michelle.
well, and I actually have a friend not in Nebraska that does it, and that's the only reason I was just wondering if anyone in our area that you knew of
yeah,
did
we
do
could
it, just
find-
so we could have support if that's what I chose.
yeah, we could find you. I know there's there. Hey, ask Dada.
I
And
know
you said you do have a friend that does it, Alicia?
Yeah, yep. She teaches, or she's a mama down in Florida with 10 kiddos.
Nice. You know, and that's a good connection right there. It doesn't have to be someone close by, but I mean, yeah, we can definitely check with our group and see who else, but just having that connection even is good. And if she likes it and you know, you think that's something that would fit your family well, then yeah, try it out. And like we said, sometimes you try things and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So don't be afraid to change. When I brought that up, I did Life Pack for a while and they were more workbooks and they were all the curriculum all together. And then I decided to go away from that. So sometimes it works for a few years and then you change, and other times you find right away what you want and you stick with it the whole time.
Yeah, and I think some people have done Abeka, you know, and stuck with it the entire time. So it's just what works best for you.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has as much flexibility as like being able to switch and change if your kiddos are going faster or slower. But I was just trying, I don't know. It was something that I wanted to ask if there was anyone around this area. So.
We'll find you somebody.
Yeah, Michelle's done it for several years. Yeah, I've never watched a DVD, so yeah, I can't tell you like what it covers or anything, but I know Michelle's done it for several years, and we all know Michelle, and she might know others too. Like if you want to see it.
Yeah.
Well, and actually our friends were back from Florida, so I got to see their curriculum because they came and spent 2 months in Nebraska, and so I was able to see that. She does all the DVDs, but she's got 9 kids still left at home that she's schooling, so it's easier for her.
Like a computer lab in her house or something.
Yeah.
I have a friend who literally, she does her husband's a computer guy, but one of their bedrooms is a computer lab. She has,
wow,
don't die when I say this, she has 16 kids and homeschooling all of them. And she's my age. She started young, had a kid every year. But yeah, she has a computer lab and she does Switched on Schoolhouse, which is similar. So her kids are on the computer for everything, like everything. She works, so her kids are on the computer for all of their subjects. It's called Switched on Schoolhouse. I've never used it, so I can't tell you about it, but I know that's what she's used since the beginning. I think
and you said she works?
She does. Don't laugh. She used to nanny other families, and now she works in Amazon. So early hours, and then gets off at like noon.
And another thing, you know, if you're working or if you're part-time or, you know, whatever, there are ways, I mean, you can homeschool whenever. You can homeschool, you can get it all crammed in on the weekend. You could do evenings, you can do anything. It doesn't have to be, your homeschool does not have to be your kid sitting in the chair from 8:30 to 3:30. Not at all. They can get done much quicker.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I know
do any day you want.
Yeah, I know when COVID started, we used to get up and the first thing we would do is we would start by 9 was kind of my thing, just to get our day started. We'd read the Bible, and that was how we started our day. We'd do our announcements. When COVID hit, my kids and girls didn't have any activities. Like, we didn't have anywhere to go. So I was like, get up whenever and we will start whenever, because we had all day and they were doing their school in the evenings. And so yeah, it's not like you have to start from 8 to 3, do it from 8 to 3. My boys, they want to get their school done, and they are rarely doing school after lunch.
Yeah.
And if they're doing it after lunch, that's because they were screwing around and weren't listening.
Yeah, right.
They are rarely doing school after lunch. Usually I throw them into some out school classes in the afternoons. Not every afternoon, but if we aren't going anywhere, I'm like, okay, you're going to take an out school class on survival or multiplication or something else. So that's just kind of what we do. But every family's different. And yes, there are a lot of moms that do work. We have a friend, her name's Nikki. She lives up in, did she move? Does she still live in Caro? No, not Caro. Central City. I know she was looking at moving, but she works full time. She gets her kids up, I think at like 5 or 6, schools them super early, and then she uses Google Sheets. And so she can, like, when they check something off, she can see it on her end. And she works full time and does it that way. And that works for her. I mean, every family's different. So we got a lot of farming families, and the wife is out helping, and so everybody's different.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Julie Macon, how do you find an out school class and what does that mean? I'll do my little plug. I'm an out school teacher. I teach out school classes, but out school, basically it's a website, and there are thousands and thousands of teachers and learners from around the world. And each class does cost. Some classes are more than others. My classes are on the cheaper end because I'm just doing it for fun. But there are classes. So my boys have taken some survival classes. They've taken things that are more educational. Well, that's educational, but multiplication, just kind of brushing up on their multiplication facts. My daughter's taken some study skills classes. She's taken a couple writing classes. One's taken a Shakespeare class. Some of them are weekly classes. Some of them, most of my classes are one time. And then I have like the same students for 5 of my classes. It's kind of hard to explain, but you do have to pay. It's not that much, like per hour, because you are paying someone to teach your kid. And, but it's on outschool.com. And so if you want a referral link, message me, because I can get you $20 for credit toward a class if you need to. But I love OutSchool. If you're a Facebook friend, I know I'm always posting about it, but that's kind of, I've been teaching since March, I think, and it's a lot of fun. There's almost every class you can think of. I even teach archery on OutSchool, if you can imagine that. So.
Hey, how about you guys? If you're willing to share, what about your family? Are you on the fence about homeschooling? Are you homeschooling? How about we meet you guys, sort of?
Let's see.
If you're willing. If you're not, it's okay.
So I'm assuming Philip, I saw Philip. What is your name holding the baby?
Erin. Hi, Erin.
I'm Erin. Yeah, we are kind of on here because we're on the fence about homeschooling. Our kids were in public school, or are in public school, and then the whole COVID thing hit. And with the potential restrictions, we're educating ourselves on homeschooling, I guess. We have friends that homeschool like Lisa, and so we've always known about it, never thought it was for us, but now with the potential restrictions, we have a couple boys that would be, well, next year they'd be first and third. So just kind of looking into what homes have a lot of apprehension about the whole curriculum. Where do you start? I watch YouTube families at homeschool and they have curriculum. We have one child who really struggles with reading, is in special ed in public school, and so would need a lot of one-on-one time anyway, and that just seems so overwhelming. So any advice you have on that would be great, because reading is a real big deal for him.
Yeah, that's a boy thing. I mean, that's pretty normal. And I really hate that little boys in public school are made to feel dumb because they're not at everybody else's level. That drives me insane. And I think you'll find your boys will probably be just fine. And, some things that were an issue in public school probably aren't going to be an issue at home.
Well, that's part of the problem though. Like when I work with him though, this is where I question whether I could homeschool, because I get really frustrated. It is like, why can't you read that? And you try different ways, writing a word, you really try helping him sound it out.
Yes. Well,
it's very frustrating. And so I like the support of the public school teachers. So if I was doing it all on my own, I can feel myself having a lot of bad, angry days at him.
Yeah.
Which you
and
will.
There's a lot of, there's like Diane Kraft, I know, is one resource, does a lot with learning. And there's another lady named Joyce Herzog. I can jot a note and then maybe we can somehow link these things, but those ladies have been helping homeschoolers for decades. I mean, so I would go to those huge heavy hitters first. Really smart. What's that lady? I'm going to mess up her name. She's not really specifically homeschoolers. I'll look it up. Anyway, Joyce Herzog, Diane Kraft, really good with, special circumstances. A lot of times your boys, like I said, my 19-year-old was a nightmare. I was like, I went to my veteran mamas and I said, there is no way this kid is going to learn anything. All he ever wants to do is play football. I don't really understand how I'll teach him anything. And I was, crying and upset and scared and nervous. And honestly, I pray a lot, and the Lord did give me some awesome ideas. That dude is such a math brain, but he learned math figuring out football scores. And that's how his math started. And he drove me crazy because once he got into doing more advanced math, he wouldn't show his work. He does everything in his head. So these kids are not like us. And those things will drive you crazy. And that's where, again, some support from some other mamas. If I didn't have those mamas telling me, sweetheart, calm down, it's going to be fine. You're going to be okay. And honestly, everything I did with Evan was, okay, if you read this word, your little guy, get your football mat, get to go 5 yards. And literally, oops, am I locking up?
You're kind of a little shaky.
He would read because he could, oh, sorry.
That's okay.
He would read because he could move his own football guys, so really the community of other mamas is hugely helpful because they will come alongside you and say, it's all right. It's going to be all right. Trust us, and it's very scary when you're first starting out because you're just like, I don't see how this is happening. And you know how you were educated, and we already know everything. So reading was a hard thing, to teach some of my kids, really hard. And those ladies will give you tips, like some kids, they can write if you smear shaving cream on a cookie sheet and they write the letters with their finger. It doesn't always have to be sit at the desk and write with this pencil. A lot of homeschooling is you are figuring it out with them, and I guarantee they're not going to fall behind you figuring it out with them. But yeah, it's a interesting journey figuring out your little people and helping them along the way. But yeah, it's nobody loves your kid like you do, and nobody cares. Nobody has more of a vested interest than you do.
And I just wanted to add, it's hard when you have multiple kids because you're like, well, my first one was reading by 5, so there's the same gene line. They should be. I have a lot of friends and their kids didn't read till they were 10 to 12, boys especially, and now they won't put a book down. Sometimes my boys, they weren't reading where they weren't reading. I'm like, we just start at the basics with Kat and Matt, and I do little flashcards, and we start at the basics. And then Christmas break, we took a break. They came back and we're just like, it was like a light bulb went on. And it's just a lot of reading. It is a lot of patience because you're like, you should know this. Well, maybe they're not, maybe they don't know their phonics. Maybe they don't know what C sounds like. So they have no idea. So it might be going back to square one with however old he is, and just starting back with Cat, and read little stories with Cat, Matt, Rat, and just starting all the way over. And don't just expect him to know it right now, but go back to the basics and start off square one. And don't feel bad about it. And don't feel bad
another thing
about it.
Right. Another thing that I learned along the way was, why not sound it out for them? I would be very much like waiting for them to sound it out and say it. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is the problem with me just sounding it out for them? I do that a lot. If they're stumbling on a word in a book or something, what is wrong with me just helping them? Goodness. So sometimes I kind of tended to be very rigid in the beginning, and then I'm learning, I don't have to be like it's not like I don't know what I'm always thinking. But.
Yeah, and the more I think about homeschooling, the more I think like my own insecurities are probably coming out. Like, how could I educate them? Like, I'm not a teacher. There's a lot of things I don't know. Like, I feel like I would do them a disservice in a lot of ways if I kept them home. And I know that's irrational, but it's just constantly like, oh my, I don't even know if I could really do it if I filled out the paperwork and didn't send them off in August. Like, wow, where would I start?
A lot of times,
also how to homeschool with little ones at home is a big factor that I'm trying to figure out, because I would have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an infant. So how could I juggle it all? So,
what grade is your older one in?
A third. He would be third, and then first. And then I would have an 8th grader, but she would go to school, public school.
You'll probably find for a 1st and 3rd grader, you just need a couple hours. And it could be 20 minutes here, take a break, 20 minutes here, take a break. And you don't need a big chunk of time.
Right.
And
I agree.
And I guess I know that, but like, what if we're not learning enough? Like, it's just, I would want a standard, I think. I'm a rule follower. I think I would want to know that we're learning on par with everyone else, or at least they're not falling behind because I'm their teacher.
All you see is the light bulbs that go off, and that's really what you have to go off of, honestly. If they're not learning like 4 + 4, go back to the basics until they know how to add, and they can add just like, you just have to go back to the basics. And you know, in public school, which some days I wish I could send my kids, but I have to go back to why we're doing it. There is no standard. So they're teaching 20 to 30 kids in a class. It's guaranteed that not all those kids are learning all that material. There are a lot of kids that are being left behind because they're not ready to move on, but they have to move on because that's the next page in the book. So they just move on. It's like, oh no, we are not slowing down because you didn't get concept number one. We're moving on.
Yeah.
So
And,
you can cater that. I pull my kids away from we don't finish a lot of our textbooks. Sometimes we pull them away and we do flashcards for multiplication for a month. And because they need to know multiplication before they do anything else. So it's hard, but don't feel like if you're doing it for a year and then you're going to put them in, they're going to be just fine. They will.
And it doesn't, you're Aaron, right?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
You read to them, you know,
Yeah.
read. I read so much to my kids, and they would sit on the floor and play Legos and play with their little Polly Pockets or whatever and draw or whatever. The little, you know, they would all just sit there and just listen. Whatever they wanted to do or needed to do, they would just sit and listen. And that's great. That's all good. It's all good. And you don't, like Julie said, you don't have to jump through anybody's hoops. They need to be curious and they need to know how to learn. And you're their mama. If you can read and you love your kids, you certainly can do it. My husband always tells people, they're like, oh my gosh, your wife homeschools? She must be so patient and so organized and so motivated and so disciplined. And he goes, nope, she's none of that.
And we've all had the little ones. We know how it is. We have all had little ones running around and trying to, they've all survived.
Yeah.
It is hard. You're in a hard season, but it does work. It's just a little different schedule than maybe me who has older kids. My 4-year-old, I still have a 4-year-old in the mix, and he causes me to stumble quite a bit. Yeah. So.
Yeah, Erin, I know I get it with the little ones because I've been there, done that, and babies and nursing, and I think it, you know, there's times there's interruptions and you just deal with it, and you know, you can get it done. As far as like the standards and what to do, I mean, I do lesson plan every year. Not everyone does. I like to know what I need to get done. So we can get done with things by the end of the year. So, I mean, you know, you can look at your curriculums. They are kind of grade based. So they should be taking your kids, you know, through what you want to get them through. You know, I think you can do it. I was going to jump in also and say with your reader, is it your first grader who's struggling? Third grade.
Yeah.
Fallon was really struggling, and you know him. Fallon, he'll be 6th grade next year. He struggled, and even 3rd grade he was struggling. And so I think it was by the end of his 3rd grade year, I finally just said, or maybe it was even early 4th grade, I just literally took a break because, like you said, you know, it's frustrating. He just wasn't getting it. I finally just said, enough. I'm not going to make him mad. I'm not going to get mad. And we took a couple months off. And when we picked it up again, it was much better. Another thing, like with that suggestion that I did with him, was some days he could work for a half an hour, 45 minutes on reading. Other days we'd last 5 minutes and he'd get frustrated. And I just learned that as soon as he got frustrated, then I put it away. But now I would say he's reading it definitely at his level. So he struggled, but then once he picked it up, he got it really fast. So don't give up on him. But I've been there with a struggling reader, and it's hard. And you know, you just need to take your time off and, you know, find those other fun ways to have them learn.
Yeah, good advice. Thanks.
Going outside is a huge attitude game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's cold outside, you know, the outdoors is a good, if you need an attitude adjustment for yourself or for your
Yeah,
kids.
yeah. I think schooling outside would be just right up his alley. He would love that.
We do a lot of that.
You
It's
can
just,
do that.
then
Yeah.
we get distracted and then it's like a fight. So it's just balancing
But
all of that. Which will be a
sometimes,
learning curve.
sometimes you get on an unexpected, wonderful little tangent outside that, that it's all learning. It's all good, And, little people, I've gotten a lot of mileage out of dried beans and little cups or a sink full of soapy water. I can get a kid to sit at one of those activities for sometimes an hour. So you do what you got to do.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like though that like you as the parent and teacher, like you want to get certain amount done, and when you're not getting it done, it's like on your to-do list then. It's like a weight on your shoulders. I can see myself feeling like, oh, I still have to think about this because we're not getting to a certain point. And it's whatever it is, reading, math, I don't even, maybe not even.
Honestly, Erin, that has been a constant letting go process for me because before I had kids, I was in sales and I was used to getting a lot of stuff done and making a lot of things happen. And I was in and out and super busy. And then I became a mom and it all came to a screeching halt. So I think it's a process of kind of letting go of all that. And just like I said earlier, if we can get the Bible in and reading and some math, awesome. That's great. Because like for me, I tried packaged curriculum. That's really hard for me because if I don't get it all done, I feel very guilty and dejected, and then we end up doing nothing. So it is a process of learning as a mama what really matters and what really doesn't. So those are all good, but they don't work for me because I'm such a rule follower and I want to check all the boxes that, man, you get a phone call, you have a parent that's sick, you have a kid that's sick, we were derailed all the time. I feel like I am the queen of, interruptions constantly, from the minute to the massive, huge life-changing things. So I love, C.S. Lewis had a quote that was, I'm going to mess it up, but it's basically, those interruptions that you call interruptions are your real life. That's your real life. So when I read that, I really was like, oh, there's a purpose in all of these things. There's a point to all this stuff. And if we can see those moments that the Lord has brought as, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And God helps me a lot. I cannot do this without him, and I cannot make it through my day without acknowledging that, he's actually in control. And if this interruption has come my way, it's supposed to come my way because he's the one in control.
And can I add, because my oldest actually went all the way through public school, because I struggle with that a little bit too, Erin, but my oldest went all the way through public school, and now that he's not on his own, he's in college, but I can definitely see where he was taught for a test and he just needed to pass the test, and that doesn't mean, he definitely didn't retain a lot of that, and there are some things that I'm like, what do you mean you don't know this? How do you not know this? You had to learn this. And he'll say, we just learned it to pass the test, Mom. And it wasn't something that interested him, so it wasn't something that stuck, but I think I'm not a homeschool mom as of yet, but this is one thing that is very appealing to me is that I can, kind of like what Tammy said, you can find ways to help them learn that actually interest them, which will probably make it stick rather than always being a challenge for them. Because my oldest, he loved to be read too, but to read, absolutely hated it. And to this day, he still hates it. I mean, he'll read because he has to for his program, but that's it. And he's only going to go through a program that's very interesting to him because otherwise he just can't handle it. So like I said, I'm not a homeschool mom, but I can speak from having a kiddo in the public school system, and I don't feel like it did what I was hoping for it to do or what I thought he would get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
And I've homeschooled, but I am surprised. I teach a lot of kids from around the world in my out school classes, and sometimes I'm surprised at some of the things my high schoolers don't know. Like, it might be a question of, we place categories for one of my classes, and it's like, name a state that starts with the letter N, and they'll name a city. And it's like, or the opposite, name a city that starts with the letter and they'll name a state. And they're like, oh, I thought that was a city, or I thought that was a state. Or some don't even know the capital of the United States is Washington, D.C. Like, I'm like, and I hate to, like, I don't say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you didn't know that. But it's like, oh, like, you're in like 16 and you don't know what a state is. So it is kind of alarming that they're not, some of them aren't retaining stuff. I mean, I think everybody should know the states, at least the capital. But it's, yeah, it is alarming, Alicia. Yeah, I agree.
And as you go into it, Erin, if you would decide to do it, I mean, yeah, definitely go into it knowing that every day will not look the same as the next one. There'll be interruptions with your little ones. Some days you'll get through everything. That'd be a total win. Most days on my lesson plans, I may or may not make it through everything, but then we just keep plugging away. On the next day, we'll pick up where we left off, and we somehow get through it all. It's just, you know, it's, but, you know, life does happen, and you just keep going, and we do get it all done. It's just a matter of, you know, just keeping plugging away at it. So, you know, just remind yourself not to be discouraged and not to get too frustrated, because there are always those life interruptions.
Could I start, think, without curriculum?
Yeah. And, you know, what about, I'm sorry, what was your question?
Do you think I could start without having a curriculum?
Yes, you can. Yep, you
Okay.
can. Yep. And you know, lots of us that would show you, you know, whatever you want to look at, whatever you want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
One of the beautiful things about homeschooling that I didn't get in here is the relationships your kids have with each other. Oh my word. That's one of the things that in realized was going to happen. They love each other. Oh, I'm unstable again. Even the older ones, you know, just being completely sweet with these little people. I was a accident baby. I was 10 years and 11 years behind my sister and my brother. So that's all I knew was I was 5 when they were 16 and 15. I was annoying. So for me to see these beautiful relationships that my kids have with each other, and for my 21-year-old to come over and yay, Abby's here, you know, and they all, you know, my kids don't hate each other. They love being together. And that is a really awesome thing, because I don't think that happens when kids are going, you know, all directions with public school. They learn to kind of be aggravated and annoyed by their siblings, and wow, mine love each other. It is really awesome. We have fighting, yes. Like my oldest, they were at each other's throats all the time. And I was like, oh man, you are going to clock your sister one of these days, and I might actually laugh when you get bigger than her. but never, that never happened. They're great friends now. So that's a really cool thing. As somebody who I'm really not close with my siblings. It's awesome.
Any other questions? The others dropped out because they had to get going, but they can watch this later.
Mhm.
As Lisa's driving. Drive safe, Lisa.
Yeah.
I
All right. Well, if you guys think of any other questions, again, I don't know. Where do you live, Erin? Do you
I'm
live
in Aurora.
Oh, okay. So you're close by.
Yeah.
You guys are more than welcome to come over, look at curriculum.
Yeah, anytime.
You don't have to use curriculum. I was going to say, I have a friend who homeschooled 6 kids in
Library.
Omaha. She didn't buy a single thing from like a publisher until her kids were middle school to high school. All she did was cheap I don't know if Walmart has them anymore, but Barnes and Noble, or if you go to a bigger town, like those just cheap math workbooks, the cheap little science experiment workbooks that are like $2, or I don't know how much they are, but they're not very much. She just print off worksheets, math worksheets. She did flashcards. She did not do any formal curriculum. That's all she
And
did.
there's, tons of on that Hoopla, you can get, if you have a library card, you can get on Hoopla. There's tons of audiobooks, man, tons. And some of them are really good readers. There's a lot of free audiobooks out there. You could do things cheap. You could just do field trips. You could do a field trip a week and discuss that. That all kinds of conversations come from when you're out and about. You could talk about all kinds of stuff. We didn't really hit on unit study. One of my favorite homeschools stories is I have a friend from New Zealand, and she was a teacher in New Zealand, and she came to the Houston area, and she was going to put her kids in public school, and she was explaining to me what New Zealand was like, and it almost sounded like they were doing unit studies, where if it snowed, they would discuss the science of snow. They would read poems about snow. They would make snow. They would what else? Have math about mathematical equations about, the geometry of a snowflake. And she was telling me all this stuff, and that's kind of like a unit study. And she's like, what is a public school like here? And I'm like, it's nothing like that. And I think it took her 4 months, and she left me a voicemail one day, and she said, I am so over this. You need to call me. So she did after that.
You're about to lose your phone. All right. Well, we'll conclude. I'll stop the recording. But thank you, gals, and the others who are watching. Feel free to, you somehow found this link, and my email is connected to that link. So you can email me, and then if you want to talk to Tammy or Lisa, I can connect you with them. Oh.
Can I pray quick? Can I pray us out? Okay.
Yep.
Dear Lord, thank you for this time. Thank you for all these ladies that joined us, ladies that'll be, and husbands that'll be joining us later and watching this recorded. Lord, I ask that you bless all of them and give them wisdom and discernment, and help them not be scared. We just thank you for this journey of homeschooling. We thank you for this time tonight and this technology, and we especially thank you for Jesus. It's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.